That's a real pastor, by the way.
Right.
Okay, we're going to be ready. Five.
Former U.S. diplomat David Hunter is in my presence in the studio here. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Rhett. Nice to be here.
Always good to have you here. I'm Rhett Palmer, by the way, 31 years on air. And so everything has changed. We got new cameras, new microphones, and all kinds of stuff is going on. We thank Pastor Trevor Rayburn from the First Presbyterian Church over on Oslo Road in Vero Beach, Florida, for helping us out here. He should be attending to his 4 children and his church family, but I'm part of that little church family, and he's always in here helping. We got a lot to discuss. Of course,
Yeah.
you and I, you are what they call an academic. If you don't, if somebody out there, some young person doesn't know what an academic is, because you went to the London School of Economics and stuff. I'm a high school dropout who went back to college.
Right.
Tell me what an academic is, if you would define it in your heart.
Yeah. Well, an academic is termed from the concept of an academy, and an academy is a facility, a school for study, but of higher learning, study of higher learning. So nowadays you think of colleges and universities,
Yeah.
but in the old days, going back to Plato, there was Plato's academy, where he trained his students.
And expanding their
And
thought.
expanding their thoughts and thinking analytically.
Socratic thinking didn't, it's hard to believe that
Yeah.
Socratic thinking didn't exist till he broke down the walls. We take it for granted,
Right.
our freedom of thought, but people have been very ignorant to the point where, you know.
And frankly, we're in a world today where what I call Socratic thinking or analytic thinking is very important, because we're dealing with lots of mistruths, disinformation, misinformation, and the internet, YouTube, everything like that, all these things out there swirling around. It's almost like you're being bombarded with information.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, this last week with President Trump just starting his second term, and he signed this pile of presidential orders.
Over 300, right?
Yeah, and all of the other things that he's been doing, it is creating such a whirlwind of change
Okay.
that people are feeling they're feeling disoriented.
Yeah. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this. Okay. So I'll come at from the perspective of somebody who's in high school.
Yeah.
Okay, executive order. Now, as I know, the little that I do know is that in the past, executive orders were not used that frequently. Now, all of a sudden, it's built up where they jump into office, whether it's Obama, whether it's Biden, and they all jump in and do these executive orders. It looks like Trump is going to take the prize at this point, right?
Well, I don't know if prize is the right term for it. Clearly, many things that are done are supposed to be done through Congress. And if you're doing an executive order, you're bypassing Congress.
Okay, why does it exist, the executive order?
Well, it's
Can you give me a simple, for instance, a story?
Well, for instance, under executive order, President Biden imposed sanctions on some Israeli settlers who had illegally attacked and burned Palestinian villages and houses. So Biden...
Is this prior to them being attacked?
This is recently. This was like in the last couple of years that Biden had imposed sanctions on the Israeli settlers who were conducting these raids illegally into Palestinian lands and committing these problems. Now,
they were not in retribution for, they were not responding to an attack?
Okay. No, they were. This is. We're going to talk about that today. Quite a bit about Israel today. There's several topics if we can move along to that.
Yeah.
But the idea is that an executive order is done in some cases as a special presidential prerogative, an action by the president. In some cases, it's sort of to circumvent, but it's seen as a lighter weight action than than passing a congressional bill for the same purposes. So, and a presidential order is not permanent; it can be overturned.
So what did Biden do? What did this executive order do?
He basically imposed economic sanctions or forbidding of these people to come to the United States. You can't enter our country.
If you live in that little
If
town or whatever.
If you have committed crimes against the Palestinians that we have determined to be legitimate crimes, we are not going to allow you entry into
Did
the
that
US.
happen?
Yes, it did. And also, Biden was also proposing to sanction, probably through executive order,
Yeah.
an entire military unit, a brigade of Israel that was seen as intentionally attacking Palestinians and misbehaving in a way that was seen as outside the rules of war, and so, and in that case, Benjamin Netanyahu, he said nobody's going to impose sanctions, and in this case, imposing sanctions means cutting off funding to that brigade. Now, ironically, the U.S., and we're going to talk about that today, the U.S. is funding Israel up to the tune, while Biden was in office, of $54 billion, with a B, $54 billion. Most of that since October 7th of 2023.
But this is
54
not
billion.
an isolated case, because the U.S. has everybody's on the take from the United States of America virtually.
Well,
and to some degree.
Well, I think what
Do you know this? Do you know that right now Biden had put through $50 million was allocated to pass out prophylactics, rubbers, to the Palestinian people in Gaza? It just was approved 30 days ago. It got here in time that Trump was able to stop it. $50 million of American taxpayers' money to go. What are we doing giving prophylactics to the people in Palestine?
What about if you were giving that prophylactics to the Jews in Israel? What about that? Would that be all right?
No.
Okay, well then
No.
why are we giving Israel $54 billion?
Why are we
giving them
why are we
$54
giving
billion?
50? Why are we giving 50 million in
Well,
prophylactics?
billions. I didn't say.
I know, but I'm saying, why should
You're
we give?
changing the subject. The
No, I'm
point
not
is,
changing the subject. It's
50 million
it's the
versus
same
50
thing.
Right, 50.
Everybody's getting all this money.
Well, you're right. I think the key here.
Now, are you sure 50 billion?
Yes, 54
That's a big
billion.
number.
54 billion. I'll
Yeah.
give you the statistics on that.
I mean, I haven't made my first billion yet, so I don't really
know.
get the concept.
I know. Well.
How
to
many
me,
how many billions to take a trillion? 1,000?
There are 1,000 millions.
Billion. 1,000 billion.
millions
No,
in a billion.
no, 1,000 billion to make a trillion.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay,
It's
okay.
the same thing with 1,000. You get 100.
Because they throw this stuff
100
around.
million, 100 million, and then above that
Okay.
is
Now
a
you're
billion.
you're supposed to be the smarter guy here.
Yeah.
Not sure if that's true. Better educated. But here's the deal. So, don't. Well, anyway.
Let me explain to you. You were asking about this, and we can just go to this topic as the first one today, which is the Israel. Does Israel really need U.S. military aid? Do we? My point here, I think this is a very legitimate one for our audience out there to consider. As I just said, Biden gave them $54 billion this year.
Was this recently?
Just recently, yeah.
54
Yeah,
with a
54
B.
billion, yeah. In October 2023, we gave 14 billion of emergency aid right after the October attack on the Hamas attack. In April of 2024, we gave 17 billion of aid. In August of 2024, we gave 20 billion.
Okay.
Of aid.
We can wrap that all in.
So-
Okay, so here we got this little tiny country of this
country,
country.
yeah.
And we got all these huge countries always attacking Iran, Saudi Arabia, all the things. They're always attacking Israel. They're the only seed of democracy. And I think that's why there's got to be, what's the reason, except for God, what's the reason that we are always protecting Israel?
I think that's a good question. Why are we protecting? It's not because it's the only seed of democracy.
Well,
That's
I
not
think
the
it
only-
is. That's what I was
Yeah,
told.
but I think that's baloney.
Well, that came from the mouth of Biden.
Well, Israel is hardly a democracy. If you look at the way it's
What would you say it is?
I would call it a Zionist
Oligarchy?
a Zionist entity that right now is being controlled by the far right Zionists like
Just like in
Smotrich
America.
and therefore it is not a democracy.
So not everybody there who's a Jew agrees at all. There's a lot of conflict there. There's a lot of contest. A lot of contest on both sides. So I just don't want people to say, "Oh, all Jews believe this." No, that's not true.
And what most people have concluded is that Netanyahu is continuing this war in Gaza, not because he's wiping out Hamas,
Because why?
because he wants to continue in power. That if he does not continue the
Okay,
war,
well, that's
he's
conjecture.
using
That's conjecture. I know.
well, yeah. So
you know.
that kind of undermines the concept of democracy. You know, I won't hold elections. I'm going to keep a war going. So we can't.
I know,
we can't
but
hold
I know
elections
everybody's
during the war.
suspect of everybody's motivations. Last night I saw a reporter who was questioning that Trump wanted to exercise power, and that's why he was doing what he was doing.
Well,
you know, everybody thinks that everybody's
Trump,
out. For,
Trump
you
is
know,
exercising
the fact,
power.
but the fact that that reporter thought that makes me very questionable
No,
about that reporter's
actually,
innate personality.
Trump is exercising power. Presidents have the right to do that.
Yeah.
That's true. The question is, are there any limits to the exercise of power? That's the question.
You know, it's just like a judge put a stay on what he was doing for at least a week.
Yes.
The judges were not elected to run this country. They're not politicians.
The judges are.
We, the people, elected Donald Trump.
The judges are appointed to follow the Constitution.
Yes.
The president is subject to the Constitution.
And he wants the Constitution. He
therefore
does not
cannot
want to
rip
change.
the Constitution
He's
apart.
not doing that.
And if the judge says what you're doing is unconstitutional, Mr. President, then he's got to say, okay, Judge,
Good.
you're right.
What do you, let's see, okay, about cutting the funding off. Now, this is not Social Security. It's not welfare. None of these people are being cut off. But there has been, you have to be blind not to know that there's, I mean, you're a smart guy. They've gotten money and money and money and money. People don't realize every dollar probably makes $100 every day in taxes. I give you $100. You have to pay tax. I have to pay tax when I earned it. You have to pay tax. You go to the store, you have to pay tax. Then you have to pay tax on income. The money that the United States government is making is outrageous, and it's fat.
Okay.
It's fat, and the fat needs to be cut out, and so it hurts right now. I mean, Trump is coming. Now, with Netanyahu, I understand where he's at. These people have been a thorn in the side to Israel, okay? They couldn't make it on their own financial. I don't know what that is in Gaza. But, you know, then they attack Gaza. Look, it's time to say, look, there's a cancer. You're a doctor. You're my, what do you call it, the colleges? What do you call a doctor of cancer?
Right.
No, what's a doctor of cancer?
An oncologist.
Oncologist, okay. There's cancer. Have I had cancer? I don't want you to go, we're going to take 2/3 of the cancer out. No.
Okay, Rhett, you're getting off subject. What we're talking about right now, the first topic of the agenda today is why does Israel need U.S. military aid? Why are we taxpayers, you're saying, American taxpayers are getting ripped off.
What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. In fact, I'm not the only one that thinks it's ridiculous that we are paying billions and billions to Israel. Israel is not some poor little undeveloped country. Israel is the 14th richest economy in the world by per capita income. 14th richest. Okay, it has a lot of money itself. It can afford to pay for its own defense. We don't have to be giving out of our taxpayers' money billions and billions of dollars.
What is the excuse? Why did Biden do this? What did he say when he gave this $50 billion?
Well, it's basically.
What did he say? He must have said something.
There are two reasons why we're giving so much money to Israel.
Why?
In my view, my humble opinion.
Okay.
One of them is.
I'm not so sure how humble it is.
one of them is the Israeli lobby has lobbied hard against for the American politicians, the congressmen.
What do they give in exchange for that favor?
They're giving contributions. Biden got the largest contribution from AIPAC. That's the American Israel Political Action Committee. Biden
For his reelection?
The largest amount in entire. I think he got. I know for a record that Biden is the largest single receiver of AIPAC money in history that we know of.
Now, you're sure that all that funding came from Israel, or just part of it?
It came from not from Israel, from the AIPAC.
Now, the AIPAC is an outside agency.
AIPAC is the American Israel Political Action Committee.
Okay.
Mostly raising money from American Jews who are giving money. Therefore, it's not coming from Israel. It's coming from American Jews, but the American Jews are supporting Israel. So AIPAC is probably the most powerful political lobby in Washington. Okay, it's very powerful. But then again, besides that, which is one of the reasons for giving them money, because the Congress has been bought and paid for by AIPAC and is
and
sympathetic.
insurance and everybody, insurance companies, everybody.
But also you have the arms industry.
Yeah.
The arms industry likes Israel because
they're making a lot of
They're
money.
making a
I
lot
sell
of-
guns to
I
Israel.
sell guns to Israel, and I'm actually selling guns to Israel using American taxpayer money. which isn't that great.
How is that? Oh,
Well,
because we're
it's
giving
like
the money.
We're giving the food stamps to Israel to buy guns.
Okay, so in other words, hold on. You're the president. I am the gun maker.
Yeah.
I say to Israel, hey, do you need $50 million worth of guns? They say yes. I said, okay, I'm going to buy $50 million worth of gun with the money that Biden set aside here, or you did as the
What
president.
we are giving is food stamps to Israel to buy guns. Yeah, that's what it is. These are like food stamps with a gun on it, and saying, and
Yeah.
therefore,
So let me tell you. So you and I, let's say you and
Yeah.
I are American citizens.
Yeah.
Are you a patriot?
I don't want to talk about that. Of course I am, but I don't want to
Okay.
talk about
Okay.
it.
No.
Because who
I
the
don't
hell
know what-
knows what a patriot is unless they really
Well,
are.
I'm,
one,
I'm just a boy from Poughkeepsie, but
because you-
I love America. I don't know
you
what
drive
that.
around in a truck with a flag on it does not make you a patriot, Rhett.
I didn't say it did. I don't know. It's true. We have to define that because now that word's even abused, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so, but I'm patriotic.
Yeah.
You're patriotic. Okay, you love America.
Yeah.
But now that you said all that, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay,
here.
well, let's get back to this issue of the.
Oh no, I was
weapons.
going to say that you and I are on the same team. The people listening, if we're good people,
Yeah.
we care about America.
Yeah.
It's those people there up that way in
The
Washington.
lobbyists and the
They're
arms
all in
dealers.
together, though.
Well,
they're
you know what?
all in together.
There's clearly.
How about the pharmaceutical
Yeah,
companies?
there's clearly. Well, let's not go there because we're talking foreign policy. The military money that goes to Israel is under what's called foreign military financing (FMF), and the weapons are sold under what's called FMS, foreign military sales. Now, we are complaining a lot of times. Keep this in mind as perspective. We're complaining, oh, NATO isn't paying enough for its own defense. Why are we defending Europe? Why are we defending Europe? That's what everybody says. You hear that on Rhett Palmer show and on the Trump,
Why are we defending Europe?
Why do we pay so much into NATO, and why aren't the NATO countries paying enough for themselves?
I don't even know what NATO does. What does NATO do?
NATO defends.
Do they have men on the ground?
Oh yeah,
Boots
NATO,
on the ground, so they say.
Yeah, NATO is a military alliance of the Western developed world, Western European developed world. It's called the North Atlantic Alliance because it includes most countries that have North Atlantic.
So why
borders.
would we give the power to subjugate our? I mean, our people should be doing that, not.
Well, let me mention this. When after we had the World War II, Europe was in shambles. It had been crushed and defeated by the Nazis, and it needed to be reconstructed. And as part of our ability to reconstruct Europe,
Yeah.
we organized something called NATO as a military alliance to keep Russia and other threats from
What does NATO stand for?
North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's a treaty,
Okay.
and it's covering the North Atlantic. You know where that is, and the U.S. happens to be in the North Atlantic, and so is Europe. Europe is on the North Atlantic.
sure.
Scotland,
England,
all that's in
Ireland.
the North Atlantic. So that whole area, and it is a transatlantic alliance.
It's where you get the best fish.
Yeah, transatlantic alliance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so with that in mind, we are supporting and have been supporting since the 1940s
Yeah.
the NATO as a joint alliance of U.S. and Canada and the European countries to protect all of us against communism and threats from Russia and other places that might endanger us. That was the idea. It's a common collective alliance. So
Now, how do you, as a diplomat, feel about that organization?
I think that organization is very important, and I think
Why?
it's very important because it allows us to block and withstand aggressions like you see where Putin has just invaded Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, how come
Ukraine
we're not
was
able to
not
stop this guy?
Ukraine was not a NATO member, and therefore Putin
Oh.
could attack without having.
Why
any
were they not a
fear,
member?
Because they had not been accepted.
You know,
It's in a
before
plan.
this, you know that Ukraine was doing a lot of bad stuff.
Well, let's leave that
Before
out.
all this
let's
happened.
leave that. I served in Ukraine. I know about Ukraine. I know
You
how,
lived in Ukraine,
I
so
served
anybody
there for
sitting
years.
at this table, you know what you're
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
more than I.
And
But we have
at the
so
time, at the time that Ukraine was, when I was serving there was a president, Leonid Kuchma, and Kuchma was essentially a pro-Putin puppet. He was very much in favor of.
So why did they put this comedian there? By the way, he is a comedian. The guy that's in office now, he was a comedian.
Zelensky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
but comedians are very intellectual people. People don't realize. They see
have
us.
to remember their punchlines.
No, it's seeing that
Yeah.
side. They think, just like a
Right.
good investigator.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to go back to NATO instead
Okay.
of going off to Ukraine at the moment. The idea is, a lot of people are complaining, oh, NATO's not paying its own weight. They are living off of us. We are basically,
We put in most of the money.
yeah, but I want people to understand this information about we put in the most of the money. Most people have it wrong. The mainstream media has it wrong about how much money is being put in. In reality, the U.S. puts in 15.8% of all the money that NATO has.
15.
15, yeah. We put in about $550 million into NATO.
And who else contributes? London? England?
All of the other countries contribute. We're contributing 15% of NATO.
Who else? Does anybody compare to our 15%?
Germany is the second largest contributor to NATO.
Well, they're a very disciplined country. They're
Germany.
very successful
Yeah.
financially now. Are they not? Or yes, no?
But keep this in mind. The U.S. defense budget, I just mentioned, it's $550 million that we put into NATO. Okay, but we have a defense budget of $800 billion. $800 billion.
Just for defense.
Just for defense.
Jeez,
Now,
I got to go get myself a contract with the government. Man.
We are the largest. In fact, U.S. defense spending exceeds more than the top 11, the next 11 countries spending combined. 11 more countries having high defense spending. We are more than all of the rest of them combined. China, which is one of the second largest defense spenders, it only spends 30% of what America
How
spends.
about Russia?
Russia's below China, so Russia's,
Who's our number one enemy? China?
I don't want to say China.
Enemy.
I don't want to say China is an enemy. I say China is a strategic competitor, and I can discuss that at some other time. China's
Do they
on the
oppress
list.
their people?
Yes, they do. And I have a friend of mine who is Chinese, and I communicated with him over the years, and for the last 5 or 6 years, he's basically said he can't communicate.
Okay, because there's a family right here in Vero Beach that
Yeah.
was living as missionaries in China.
Yeah.
He was put in jail. He got out of the jail. They escaped, and they're back in Vero Beach, Florida. Okay.
That's good.
Now, I ran into another missionary just a week and a half ago, and this person told me, oh, no, you're free to worship. You're free to promote the gospel of Jesus Christ there. Well, what gives here? This one family comes back in fear of their life, and this person's telling me it's okay. What the hell is going on?
The second person was probably from the Catholic religion. Organized religions
Are
allowed,
acceptable.
but
You did tell me that. Yes,
but
you did.
They're
yeah.
accepted. The Chinese allow it. They have controls over the Catholic.
The Chinese like organization. They don't want non-denominational,
These free roving pastors are not allowed.
Right.
The fundamentalists are not allowed in China.
I'm not so sure that I'm so much into the free roving pastors anymore in the United States.
Well,
no, honestly, it's just like
all right. Well, let's not get on that because we're
we
talking.
need when emotions run.
Yeah.
Well, let's learn some basics here. When emotions rule, whatever the situation,
Yeah.
whether you get pulled over by a cop and won't be obedient,
Right.
okay, or whether you're in war, and everybody's with his emotions.
Yeah.
You ever notice the real leaders in life
Right.
calmly respond,
Yeah.
contemplate,
Well, let's look at the facts.
and are
This is-
flexible
this-
and teachable,
I just
pliable?
I just mentioned that the U.S. has the largest defense budget in the world.
800
Billion.
billion.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people are saying that, oh, look at how much money the U.S. is spending on NATO because we have $800 billion.
And we're giving them, what,
500 million.
550 million.
Yeah. So very small amount.
$500 million.
A very small amount.
Yeah.
Of this massive amount.
Goes into this organization.
However, a lot of Americans tend to have been misinformed and tend to think that all of our defense budget, or a lot of it, is being spent on NATO.
Okay.
It's not.
So what
We have
does
other
again,
obligations.
simplified, what does NATO do with that money, though? Do they
Well,
have guns?
Yeah, NATO has.
Have they been at, what are they doing for the Israelis, or what are they doing for the Palestinians?
No, let's not change subjects. You just asked, did they have guns? Yes, they have.
But what do
In
they
fact,
do with
NATO,
them?
NATO defends. In the time when we were with USSR, we had NATO troops lined up in Germany ready to defend if the Russians decided to come attack Germany.
Okay, well, then
Okay?
why wasn't somebody there to keep Putin from coming into Ukraine?
Because Ukraine is not in NATO. I
Oh, so we
explained
just
that.
so we let the
Ukraine-
robber barons can come on in and take
They-
over whatever they want.
We had no commitment to defend Ukraine. That's the problem.
Then why are we helping them now?
Well, we are helping them now under the assumption, two assumptions. One is
Oh, because Biden's son was working with a corporation there.
No. One assumption is that Ukraine has become, instead of that corrupt country you were talking about, it has become a fairly functional democracy. It is promoting democracy. It wants to join the West. It wants to join the European community. It wants to join NATO.
So Biden, what's his name? The guy in Russia,
Putin.
Putin can't control or manipulate Ukraine, and he wants the goods from Ukraine. Does he want minerals? What does he want? Is there oil? What is it that he wants from Ukraine?
Well, obviously, grain is the
Grain.
That's the big thing. That
Okay.
Ukraine has.
Matter of fact, I think was it World War I or World War II,
Yeah.
where these people were treated deplorably. The Russians came in and took the grain away, and the people starved to death.
That was in between World War I and II. That was
Okay.
called the Holodrome.
Stalin.
Holodrome of Stalin, yeah, where he basically starved out the kulaks, as they called the rich Ukrainians, and he starved them because they were not sending their grain to
You know,
Moscow.
can I ask you this? If we're
Yeah.
so smart, why isn't the top 10 history professors in America
Yeah.
collectively, every month or every 2 months brought down? If I was the president, I said, I want the top 10 professors that don't all agree. I don't want all liberals. I don't want all conservatives. Come down, sit with me for half a day and tell me what the hell is going on here and get some objectivity.
Yeah.
Why are we taking all this in? Now, why aren't we relying on people that do this as a focused thing?
Well, you're right in some regards, and there are people who have these think tanks that produce relevant reports, but people have to read in order to understand.
The only problem with the think tank is,
Yeah.
we're getting money from Mr. Saliva there, and he's giving us 50 million. So we kind of have to go with and we're corrupt.
Yeah, that's right.
The money corrupts.
It is. I just mentioned this about Israel, and we were asking, why is the U.S. giving all this money to Israel? And I want to point out, again, that's a lot of money. We have a $800 billion
550
defense.
million, or the 50 million for?
No, the Israel getting 54 billion with a B.
What are they going to do? 50.
54 billion.
So that's out of
in the last couple of years, 54 billion out of American taxpayers' money.
no,
going
it's
over
not
to
just
Israel.
1 year. That's not just 1 year.
It's starting since October 7th.
And Biden did this.
Under Biden, yes, it was under Biden. All this money being
So
shoveled
we
over to
can't
Israel.
blame Trump for
Money-
that one.
Money shoveled over there to buy weapons. You can say the weapons manufacturers are jolly happy.
Oh man, I'd be happy as can be.
Now,
I'm
by
building
the
this
way-
in $50 billion. What's
now-
my take out of that?
Now, by the way,
Buy my rifles.
we had
It's
some,
terrible.
we had some guys in the State Department. Some of these funding goes through the State Department approval process. It's called the Office of Political Military Affairs that approves these funds, these massive amounts of funds.
You know what it is? We
Let
don't
me
have
finish,
a. We
let me
don't,
finish.
but now hold on. This is all stuff, right? But essentially, if we don't change our code, if our hearts are not altered by a living God, then the corruption continues.
Well,
I mean, you and you come in here, you're excited, I'm excited. Are we
people-
making any changes?
Yeah, if people listen, they can figure out and understand.
And what can they do?
Yeah, they can do.
Well, they
by-
elected Trump because they thought they were doing something good.
Yeah, well, let me just say this, and this occurred under Biden, but Trump is basically concerning Israel. Trump is the same as Biden. They're basic. In fact, he may be more extreme pro-Israel than Biden.
Well, his
was.
daughter, who I met, is
Yeah.
married to a Jew.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so
he's pro-Jew, and he also brought the embassy to Jerusalem.
that's Jared Kushner is the one you're talking about, the
Yes.
one that you met. Yeah. Let me continue on this arms sales to Israel as a form of corruption and somebody trying to stand up against that corruption. There's a guy named Josh Paul. He's a career Foreign Service officer.
Okay.
He worked in the Arms Transfer Bureau at State Department. Josh
Okay,
Paul,
fine.
Arms Transfer Bureau. Back in 2021, this is long before this current outbreak, he essentially rejected a sale of fighter jets to Israel because he said the Israeli Air Force is just blowing up civilian apartment blocks in Gaza. with these jets. We're giving them jets, and they're dropping bombs and blowing up apartment
And they're
buildings.
saying that the people from were hiding out there. But it's terrifying when you see this.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little more about the destruction in Gaza now, because there's no way to say, oh, I'm going after a few terrorists. If you look at North Gaza, have you seen the pictures of North Gaza on the television? I hope you have. Journalists are finally starting to show that. And Donald Trump, ironically, he said, this looks like a demolition zone. Now, one of the things Donald Trump said was, and I'm very anti this. I think this was an outrageous comment, but it shows his Zionist propensity. He said, Gaza looks like a demolition zone. We should just move that 1.5 million over to Egypt and to Jordan.
This is Trump. Trump being
Trump
flip,
said this-
flip.
He said that on
I
Air
know,
Force
I
One
heard.
a couple of
it.
days ago.
I heard it.
A couple of days ago.
I
Yeah,
know,
he did.
yeah.
He said that wasn't flip.
Okay,
That wasn't
but
flip.
hold on a second,
Yeah.
though. As far as negotiation, he's
Yeah.
smarter than you, and he's smarter than me. Half the time when Trump says stuff, he is in negotiation mode. He's way above the proletariat, way above the common thinker. He's a businessman. He is successful, and he's a great CEO for our country. But I understand, because he says something and you're taken aback and you realize, well, it's just like about putting all these tariffs. Who was it, McKinley? Was it
Let's not
McKinley that
change
put all the
subjects.
tariffs?
Stay on this. That's a good point that Trump is a businessman. I
Yeah.
agree with that. He's a real estate developer. Okay,
But
He
a
happens-
good
He happens
negotiator.
to look at a demolished area, which
Yeah,
Israel.
I know. But he has a killer instinct.
Now let me mention Jared Kushner, because you mentioned Jared Kushner
Yeah.
is his son-in-law and Jewish.
Yes.
Jared Kushner, a few years ago, he said about Gaza. Gaza has a lot of nice real estate. It would be a beautiful beachfront property.
Oh,
to
it
develop.
would be.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
now let's put the dots together. And Jared Kushner.
Okay, you don't need to yell, though.
Jared Kushner.
I understand you're
okay,
emotional.
Jared Kushner said, all we need to do is clean it out. Trump, 2 days ago, he said, in discussing moving these Palestinians out of Gaza, he said, let's clean it out. He used the same exact words, let's clean it out, meaning the Palestinians that live there are debris that need to be moved out of there so that the land can be developed into an expensive, lush property owned by...
Well, when did Jared say this? Before
2
he was
years ago.
married?
No, 2 years ago.
Well, what a stupid thing to say.
That's what he said. That's what
But
Jared
what a
said.
stupid thing. You know what? People give themselves away with their mouth.
Yeah, well, and what I'm saying, this exact same phrase.
But
let's clean it
that's
out.
not Trump. That is him. But now
Trump
you're saying,
repeated it. He said,
now.
He said 2 days ago on
Let's
the Air
clean
Force
it up.
One, let's clean it out.
and that's
And-
all?
No, meaning move the. He said, I want to move the Palestinians to Egypt and to Jordan, and let's clean it out. It's like a demolition zone. Keep in mind, Rhett.
This is why they want a one world order. So there's this group, this oligarchic
Oh,
group.
come on, forget about
No,
that.
let me say this. So if we had a perfect world, they would go, no. We see what you're doing here, and no, you're not going to do that. But we don't know. See, the thing is, if you don't have a code, well, when I was up in Canada, this is important. When I was up in Canada as a young man, I did my musical recordings up there for jingles for radio and TV.
Okay.
But this family took me in, and he was a conservative.
Yeah.
And he said, really, the best kind of form of government is benevolent dictatorship. Well, of course, I sat back in my chair going, what? In other words, he thinks when Jesus returns, that would be benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah.
Jesus is not here on the earth right now that I know of. And so, man is just corrupt. It's hard to, now I hear these things and I go, whoa, boy,
Yeah.
what is going on here? And, my grandfather, who lived in New York City, really had a great wisdom. He said,
Yeah.
can you sleep on a better bed?
Right,
Can you eat more food than you're eating?
right.
You and I both could afford to go to the best steakhouse on the east coast of Florida tonight.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know about if you're paying.
You're just cheap like my brother was. Matter of fact, you should buy. Didn't I buy last? I think
No.
up in Canada I bought. Did you buy? Oh, I bought. That outside place?
No,
I think-
we both
No.
split that in
Oh,
Vermont.
did-
In
did-
Vermont.
did we?
One night for you, one night for me.
Did you get to meet Jane when you were up there, by the way?
I don't think
She was a blonde, retired,
Yeah.
she
I
died.
would remember any blondes.
She died, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, so
I lost two friends. I've lost,
Yeah.
I think 8 people in the past 2 weeks that I know of that have died. Not all friends, but
Yeah.
friendly, some that were friends.
Well, anyway,
I'm a little devastated on the inside over all
this
this.
thing
you know.
about Trump and Jared Kushner supporting. By the way, Mr. Smotrich. Everybody in the
Now,
audience
Mr.
should know him.
Smotrich.
He's the far right extremist Zionist who is on the cabinet of Netanyahu.
Is he the puppeteer for Netanyahu?
Pretty much, yeah.
Is
He's if he leaves the coalition, Netanyahu's coalition
His
falls
history.
apart. Yeah, because
Why?
Ben Gvir already left. Ben Gvir had like 6 votes.
Did
And,
he say why he left?
Yeah, he left because Netanyahu introduced the ceasefire. He was angry that they stopped the war. That's Ben Gvir. He said, we can't stop the war. So
Because they want to go out and get all the cancer out.
Well, they're
The-
not
my
getting
reference.
they're not getting the cancer out. As I explained to you, and I've mentioned about Petraeus's doctrine, if you bomb
Petraeus was on my show, you know.
if you bomb a bunch of civilians, you're going to create 10 terrorists for every terrorist you kill. Okay, it's a multiplier.
Yeah,
effect.
you kill my sister,
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up my son
Yeah.
to hate Israelis.
And when you saw the release of the hostages, those 4 beautiful Israeli women that were military soldiers, by the way, they were intelligence.
I didn't
officers.
see them, but I heard about
They
it.
were intelligence officers.
Okay.
They were not innocent civilians, and therefore they were captured and they were released and they were in good health. But
Did they say they were continually raped, or do we know yet?
they didn't say, and I don't think that's what happened. I think that is Israeli propaganda. Clearly, it's Israeli propaganda. These
Well,
women were not emaciated.
You do lean towards being
No, I'm
anti-Israel.
just looking at the facts in front of me. I can see the pictures of them.
Well,
they
these
look
Palestinians,
pretty healthy.
these Palestinians, all dressed in black with their blue top,
That was
green
not
tops.
Palestinians. Those were Hamas.
Hamas.
And Hamas was making a statement.
Which
Which is, we're not going anywhere. We're still here. We are not out of power. You've been bombing us for 15 months, and we are still in power. Okay, that's what Hamas was saying to Israel.
Well, what do
And
you
the
do when
Israelis-
there's the threat that they could go back
The
over and kill
Israelis,
more
the
innocent Israelis?
citizens of Israel are understanding of this fact that
Yeah.
the war and the destruction that has been waged against Palestinian innocent civilians has not achieved the goal. Most in the military realize this war effort has been a total failure for Israel. It is not accomplished.
Well, if you look at the Gaza, my God, they're allowed to go back home. There is no home.
Well, you're right. They don't even have a tent to live in the top of the rubble that they're returning to. It's terrible. It is terrible. Now,
If we were a good people, we should be dropping tents and food to all these people.
Yes, that's what was called the floating pier. Remember that? We had that for a while under Biden. It
What
was a
happened to
total-
that?
it was a
I
failure.
think it
was a
sunk or
failure.
something.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. We could
Well,
be.
it's got to be another way to
we
bring
could
in
be
food.
flying in tents now and dropping it in.
Yeah,
Gaza.
I'm President Palmer. I'm taking over officially,
Yeah.
and we're going to feed these people and send them in some tents
Yeah.
and give them some clothing.
And actually,
Let's be humane. What the hell has happened to our humanity?
I actually have a better idea, and I've said
What?
this on the show before.
What?
And this is basically all those illegal settlements, and there are now 800,000 illegal apartment buildings and houses in the West Bank. The West Bank is Palestinian land. The Israelis have been building illegal settlements. We talked about that, the Hilltop Group and others building illegal settlements, partly funded by American Israeli supporters.
Do you
No.
objectively study their point of view?
Let me
If
explain.
you do that,
Let me explain this
I would
first.
feel good.
Let me explain this first. Yeah, I know their point of view is exactly what.
Well,
what,
do you know it and
their-
understand it?
their view-
They gave up the Gaza Strip. They didn't have to.
Listen, their view is what Elise Stefanik, who is the Trump ambassador to the United Nations, she openly said in her
She's the one that was just put into place?
in her confirmation hearing. She
She
openly
said-
she said that she agrees that God gave the West Bank, which the Israelis call Judea and Samaria, God gave the West Bank to the Jews.
Did the Jews die in 1967 to acquire that? Yes or no?
Are you saying what was the battle? I don't
No,
know
no,
what
no.
the
But
battle-
1967. All
Yeah,
I
there was
know
a-
is there was a piece of land that was won in 1967, and from my point of view, by the hand of God. And then there was a prime minister, I think, of Israel, who decided to give that land back. The next day, he fell into a coma. He sat in that coma for 8 years, and then he died. Because I believe he went against the will of God. Says, you don't give back my land.
Well, anyway, Elise Stefanik was saying that she thinks that God gave the West Bank to Israel. Okay, she said that in her hearing.
I'd have to study, but I probably agree with her.
Yeah. Okay. And therefore, she is essentially slamming the door shut on any two-state solution. The West Bank was supposed to be
We
where
offered them two-state solution. They've never accepted it.
Wait a minute.
They want to annihilate Israel.
No, our
Again and again. So is Iran. They say we want to annihilate the Jews.
no.
What do you got your eyes closed? They're not good like you are. They're not. Their words not work. Their handshakes nothing.
All right, I've got a
What do you do?
I've
I have
got
people around here like that.
I've
And I
got a-
realize evil is evil.
I've got a fairly intriguing proposal for Donald Trump.
Okay.
Donald Trump can bring the Israelis, all of them. There's 7 million of them. Bring
To
them,
Texas.
Bring them all. Now wait a minute. Wait a
just-
minute. I've got more to it. They bring him to Texas. They can defend our southern border and have their own Lone Star.
They can defend our southern border. That's a good one.
and Lone Star.
I tell you what, we won't have any illegal aliens. The Jews are a strong people.
Yeah. And then we bring the
But
we bring the
I know.
we bring the Palestinians here.
Yeah, I know. What?
We bring the Palestinians here and settle them in Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Then we're going to have a war down there.
No, because there's no common border.
Listen.
And then
In the days of old, look, the Genghis Khan and his brother Don,
And then we
mean, they came in. Do not, when you get the spoils of war, when the Jews would fight the Philistines,
no,
right?
we got the Jews and the Philistines.
The people, no, way back when. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the way back
Yeah, I
when.
know,
We're talking
back-
about thousands of years ago. So if I beat your clan,
Yeah.
I get your gold, your silver, I get the spoils of war, and I get your land, right?
And you make their people slaves. The captive
Apparently
people
that's
slaves.
like Egypt
Yeah.
got the Jews.
Which is really what Israel is trying to do to the Palestinians.
When did the Egyptians capture the Jews to make them slaves?
I don't know.
See, I could go back to school for the
Yeah.
rest of my life.
Anyway-
It's so intriguing.
Anyway,
all
what
this.
Israel is doing to the Palestinians is very similar. They are not slaves, but they're considered to be subhuman. And if they are, according to Ben Gvir and Smotrich, if they want to live in the land of Israel, they will be granted that right as second-class, third-class citizens with very limited privileges.
Who is this?
The Palestinians. If they want to stay in the Palestine, according to the far right says, this is our land, Israel owns it, you get out, or you
Okay.
live here
Now-
under our pleasure.
Do you know I'm not political?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm a goofy shoeshine boy from Poughkeepsie, New York.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
so I get born again in my living room at the
Right.
age of 29. I'm into Eastern religions. I think Jesus is a bunch of hooey.
Yeah.
Well, I have a miraculous encounter with Jesus, and I thoroughly and 1,000% believe in Jesus now. Now, I go to Israel to shoot a music video to one of my gospel songs, okay?
Right.
Now, as soon as I get into Jerusalem, I hear, and I'm going, what the heck is that weirdness?
Yeah.
And it's the Muslims,
Right.
5 times a day, they go into prayer morning going, I thought this was Jewish property. I thought,
Yeah.
why are the
Well, you
Jews,
could say
why are the
same thing-
Jews,
You could say the same thing here, Rhett, that, we could say, why are Jewish temples being set up in America when this is a Christian land? Why should you have Jewish temples set up here? They shouldn't be allowed. If you want to be that way, you can be that way. You could say, we're a Christian nation. Anybody that's not Christian...
well, the Jews weren't that way. They allowed these people in. They wanted to live in brotherhood. Both sides, actually.
Actually,
what?
Rhett, they didn't
Do you
let
know-
them in.
Do you know?
They were there before Israel got there.
They were
Yes,
there
they were.
after Israel took it over, and Israel was kicked out.
No, if you're mistaken, Rhett. The Jewish took over the
Okay, then I tell you what.
the
Let's.
temple that
Okay,
you call
okay,
the
good. Okay.
Al-Aqsa
Let's have a
Mosque,
war, and
the
it's already
golden-
started.
Rhett.
And whoever prevails gets the land. You go.
No,
Yeah, that's warfare, baby.
Yeah, because what happens, Rhett?
You
is-
want to go with might is right?
What
Well,
happens?
okay.
What happens there is that you then end up introducing terrorism into the blood of the nation, which is to
What do you
say
mean?
that you never defeated them. They are going to be around and they're going to continue to attack you as terrorists as long as you live.
So then,
So you're gonna be
So then,
living-
what about the Netanyahu's right to take out all the cancer and say, nope,
You
that's
can't-
it, it's done.
Rhett, you can't get rid of all the cancer. The point is the cancer, you're growing the cancer by the conduct that Netanyahu is doing. What he's doing is adding to the anger and
There's
hatred
two sides
of
to
Jews.
this story.
And look at anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism in the world has grown dramatically in the last couple of years.
Well, I'll
Grown
tell you
dramatically.
something. I am shocked.
Yeah.
I thought everybody believed that there was a Holocaust, and I know that what's his name was our president. Who was the general? General Eisenhower landed and saw the Dachau and said, "Gentlemen, we didn't have video then. Film this, take pictures of it, because in the future, this is his words, folks. Some son of a bitch is going to come along in the future and say this didn't happen. Those were the words of the future president, and then the General Eisenhower.
Yeah.
And now people are saying, "Oh, we're not sure that it really happened."
Yeah.
My God, help us! What the hell is the matter with people?
Right. Well, anyway,
You know, and look. Let's talk about it. You're an academic. You've had a nice little life. You get to study. You get your degree. You get to fly around the world. You've lived in all these countries. You're living a nice little nomadic life. You're good. You're prosperous. Okay.
so what's your point?
And by the time
My
I got
point
through with all that, I've kind of like
Yeah.
wandered
All right,
down
let's
the
go to
road.
the
I
next
don't know.
topic. We,
All right,
we
what's
got a
the
little
next?
bit less. This is Trump freezing.
We have 9 minutes.
Trump freezing U.S. foreign aid worldwide. In one of his decisions in the last day or two.
Until they figure out who's on the take.
Well, that of course is the question. The U.S. is the world's biggest donor.
Yeah.
Okay, we give a lot of foreign aid.
And
Okay.
no, you know who the biggest donor is? The people. We give our money, and they're robbing us.
Well,
and they keep
no,
increasing it with taxation without representation.
Okay, the question
It's
of
time for a
foreign aid-
revolution. I think the whole closest thing we've come to for a revolution is Trump.
Okay,
the
the
people gave a
all right.
mandate for this guy to come in and clean house.
All right. Well, anyway, so the Trump administration and Secretary, the Florida Senator
Bush,
Marco Rubio.
Bush
Marco
was
Rubio.
weak.
Marco Rubio. is the new
Obama
secretary.
was weak.
Rhett, let me finish.
The
I'm trying to
strongest
make a point.
person we've had is
Rhett,
Clinton.
I'm trying to make a point here. Okay, you've got 8 minutes, 7 now. Marco Rubio signed a declaration.
He just took office, and what is his
He's
title?
the Secretary of State,
Secretary of State.
former senator from Florida.
Okay, and what's under his authority?
The State Department and USAID,
And AID stands for?
Agency for International Development. That's
Okay.
part of the State Department. It's actually a separate wing of the State Department.
General Colin Powell, who I interviewed, used to be this,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
Baker.
AID provides U.S. assistance, foreign assistance,
Yeah.
to all different places around the world. And
It's just so
they're-
overwhelming.
Yeah. And
I got to go back to school for 40
Red,
years. I'll be dead.
Listen, 40. We're talking about U.S. foreign aid. Probably is something in the range of $70 billion a year. Now, that
So we put 800 billion into weaponry, and then another 700 billion into.
no 70 billion in aid, foreign aid.
Oh, that's all.
70 in
We're
foreign aid.
800 billion
No.
towards weaponry.
800 million
Towards-
towards the Defense Department.
No, not million, billion.
Billions, yeah, and
And
keep
then
in mind,
70 billion towards. Okay.
Yeah, but
Why
keep in
do we
mind-
feel it's necessary for us to be giving all this money away?
Well, as I said, it sounds like a lot of money, but keep in mind the Defense Department budget, 800 billion. That is 4% of our gross domestic product. 4%.
Of whole gross domestic
GDP,
product,
the total-
not the taxes.
Total domestic product of
Okay,
the
that's
country.
product, okay.
And remember, Trump was saying to the Europeans, "Oh, you've got to increase your defense spending up to 2% or 3% of GDP for you Europeans.
Well,
You're
that's
not
not
paying
it.
enough."
Well, that's
You're
not
paying
asking much.
Well,
We're giving what?
we're giving 4%. We're giving
Okay.
4%, but we
So-
are patrolling the whole world with that 4%.
So why don't they chip in 3 or 4% themselves?
Well, that
Is
of
that
course,
asking much?
That's what Trump is suggesting. And
perhaps
saying,
he's right.
He's saying they're not doing enough to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And therefore, why are we over there defending
Yeah.
them? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the argument
Yeah.
that he's making. Okay. The question is, why are we spending such a massive amount of money on defense in general? Most of it is not going to NATO, as I explained to you before. Most of it is going to other priorities, everything from cyber security to protecting the South China Sea from Chinese aggression in the South China Sea and defending Taiwan and Japan and we've got a lot of responsibilities all over the world that we're using for that money that we're spending. I'm not saying that that's necessarily wisely spent. Somebody could come into the Defense Department with a scalpel and start cutting out some of the large wasteful defense programs. Do we need all these aircraft carriers? If, as I said to you before the show, hypersonic missiles can sink an aircraft carrier and we have no way to stop the hypersonics, what are we doing with an aircraft carrier? We can't get it into the battle zone because a hypersonic can sink it.
Yeah.
And therefore, if it's outside the battle zone, the airplanes can't get to their targets. So it's almost like a
And
floating.
look at the North Koreans sent a bunch of soldiers just to make a statement
10,000
into.
Ukraine.
Yeah, but you know what? Some of them were caught. They don't even know why they're there. These are common working people that are living off of rice. It's a horrendous, the evil. What we do is we got all these, what would you call them, barons. We got all these barons. That guy that runs North Korea, he's an evil baron.
Yeah, I would call him an evil dictator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call it the bad boys club. You've got.
I mean, they're sending people, and these guys are going, we don't even know why we're here. And listen to this.
Yeah.
I've been watching videos the past 2 nights on YouTube
Yeah.
showing our little drones coming in. Now, I happen to invest a lot of money
Yeah.
into laser beams that shoot down drones, okay?
Yeah.
And it's still debated whether I'm going to make money off of this whole
Right.
thing. But my friend said yesterday, well, you're helping the war. I said, well, it's not the drones we're building; it's the ones that shoot down the drones. But now the
Yeah, that's a
drone
defensive-
but
that's
now
a
the
defensive-
drones are coming in. And they have cameras, and they go, here's this little Russian guy. He's 18. He wants to live his life. He's been sent there by Putin, and he comes in, and they're taking him out. I'm watching hundreds of people losing their very lives. Tanks are being. They can't defend themselves against these drones.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, what the
in
heck?
this case, the Russians could defend themselves by going back to Russia instead of taking over some other country.
But Putin doesn't care about them.
Yeah, he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't.
Nobody cares about the common man. Actually, I think Trump does care. I think Trump has lived long enough. They say, you watch a man's history, everybody that's worked with him said he's a really nice man.
Care. Yeah.
He pays people well.
Well,
He expects
I'm hoping.
work.
I'm hoping Trump is going to pursue. He was successful in this initial stage of the ceasefire in the Gaza.
Yeah,
That happened.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that he's going to his special envoy is right now in Israel, meeting with.
But you suggest that Trump wants to build hotels on the Gaza Strip.
I'm afraid that Jared Kushner may be whispering in his ear, "Oh, get those guys out." And people in the far right of Israel are saying, "Oh, if we get those people out of Gaza."
Well, why did they ever give away such a beautiful section? It is beautiful.
Okay.
But then you've got to listen. I watched the documentaries. You've got little boys and girls that are in the Gaza Strip, these Palestinians or whatever you want to call them, and they're being. Well, one little boy is in a wheelchair because some Israeli soldier saw him over in the junk pile, the garbage pile, trying to get things after school, shot, and now he's in a wheelchair forever. What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean
No, we
all Israeli soldiers are evil, but
Right.
you know,
It doesn't, but many the rules of engagement, including the massive destruction that we've seen in Gaza, should prove. When you see the place looking like a demolition zone.
no, it looks like what was that movie when Armageddon?
Yeah.
Armageddon.
Armageddon. It looks like that.
Yeah.
That is
It's
that is
horrible.
inexcusable if you're going after a
Well,
few.
all war
if
is
it- no, but
inexcusable.
if you're going, see, keep in mind, this is a war inside Gaza. It's not a war inside Israel. Israel doesn't look like that. Israel doesn't look like that. And the reason why it looks like that in Gaza is thanks to the United States supplying bombs that Israel is dropping willy-nilly without any care of who's getting killed. They're just trying to demolish the place. And they did. They've demolished it. North Gaza has
Okay.
been demolished.
Why do you think? How are they justifying this in their own hearts?
I think it's unjustifiable. I think it is unjustified.
Okay, let's say it is before
Yeah.
God. Let's say
Yeah.
God, you and I
Yeah.
agree. But what are they saying to themselves? But this is presuming that I think Netanyahu is essentially a good man. Now, I don't know how corrupt, though, the human beings get, because I've seen people who were really nice people come into a lot of success, and they no longer are good people. I got to say goodbye. Look, we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We pray for the people of Gaza and the people of Israel. We pray that peace would prevail throughout the whole world. Please, Jesus. Man is not capable. So intervene, please, this mess down here. In your name we pray, amen. How's that?
Amen.
Peace. Okay.
All right.
Oh, God, help us all. Oh, I forgot to put that on for Noah. But he can take it from the sound from this, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's grab everything that we have
Right.
that we should bring with us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was good.